Hey, welcome to Chicago High School Football Legends. My name is Bernard Muhammad. Hey, we're on episode number 9. I mean, these programs are getting better and better, in my opinion. Tonight we have Pastor Michael Neal. So throughout the night, you're going to hear me say Mike Neal or, Pastor. I may go back and forth because me and Mike are friends. We go back to probably about 1980, 1981. So, you're looking at over 40 years of knowing this brother, and we're fraternity brothers now. So, hey, don't beat me up in the church community if I start calling him Mike and not Pastor. Hey, but anyway, last week we had Rocky Harvey on here who played for Dunbar High School, and he had a very interesting story. He finished high school rushing for over 7,000 yards, which was incredible. Also, some of our previous guests was Sidney Payne, Muhammad, Ed Junkins Ed Junkins for Julian. We also had Coach Michael, I think it's Carl Williams, who was from Simeon. So we want to come Reverend Mike Neal tonight, or Pastor Mike Neal, to cover his story. Mike is very involved in the community, and as I went through Mike's Facebook page, I even noticed like one of my co-workers she wrote a book and Mike was doing something with her book. But no further ado, I'd like to bring Brother Neal onto the platform. Hey, how you doing, brother?
Hey, man, how you doing, Brother Bernard?
I'm doing good.
Appreciate you, man, for this opportunity to discuss and to come on and follow such powerhouses that you've already had on the show. So great concept, my brother.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I also want to mention we did have Carl Boyd on here. Hey, Mike, you probably remember, I think it was July, I had text you and Cook. And the interesting thing was Cook and I and a few other people, we were just reminiscing on some high school stories. And when I got home, I said, man, I should try to do a podcast to capture this, because some of the stuff Cook was saying, he was telling stuff from a virgin that he witnessed that was different from our virgin, even though we had different experience. So I actually text Pastor Neal and Terrence Cook, and those were the first two people I floated the idea to. And I said, which I'll be interested in comments. So as I was going through, I said, man, let me get back to Brother Mike, because he the one said, yeah, do it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's perfect timing too, man, which I'll share, some latest updates. So the timing is just perfect, man.
Okay. Mike, let's start off with just some basic groundwork. When did you first start playing football?
Well, like most of us, man, as kids, sports was just a regular thing. We were out in the street or in the backyard playing football, playing basketball in the alley, playing softball, but I never played organized football until I got to high school. So everything I did was just, pick up games and things like that. I played a little baseball in, the Pony League, but organized football wasn't until high school.
Okay. So, hey, what neighborhood were you in?
So I started out in Park Manor on 67 and Wabash, but then we moved to West Inglewood, 71st and Marshfield, and we moved at a time which I didn't have a reference for it at the time, but I came to understand what it was. It was called White Flight. So I moved to a community that was mixed, and then overnight, it wasn't. So I got a taste of that as a kid, and I remember that vividly. And now as an adult, I'm able to put some framework to it and understand exactly what was happening.
Okay. Reverend Neal actually played high school football at Lindblom. You may be able to see it down at the bottom of the screen. You actually jarred a memory. I grew up in the 67, and at that time, Parnell area, and one of my neighbors who lived right above us in the apartment, they moved actually to Lindblom neighborhood, and they had moved to 62nd and I think Horn. And when I went to visit them, they were like maybe the second Black family on the block. This probably was around 1975. And by the time I got to Lindblom as a freshman in 1979, that, Lindblom was 100% black at that time. Well, it might have been still a few white people here and there. So it definitely was a white flight experience in that area, and as far off as to where you were at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you come to know and learn that there were certain boundaries or areas that once you crossed or got near, that you had to really be careful. So I guess this goes to show you that there's been a level of violence or strife all our lives. It's just that we knew how to navigate it.
Okay. Now, what position were you playing in street ball?
So in street ball, you know how it is, man. You just pick a team, and somebody was the quarterback, and everybody just ran out for passes. So
right.
I think eventually, when it comes to football, that's what made me really want to be a receiver. But initially, in Lindblom, I was a defensive end, and even my senior year, and in fact, a junior year, I was a punter. I was a kicker, kicker and a punter, and then senior year as a defensive end. And it really wasn't until right before the first game I got moved to tight end, so to play both ways. And so I guess as far as just positioning, and I guess as I look back on it now and I see how kids are playing ball while they're in diapers and barely in school, I was just totally the opposite, where I never saw the football field until I actually played on one in high school.
Okay. I had the similar experience as you. I had never played in equipment before. And I think about what you was talking about, sandlot football. I think about one, I guess, Andre Keller. He had said something, and I forgot we did that. You remember when you threw the ball off and you'd be like, warning, right?
Yep. And then to the point where you're playing in the street. So you literally sometimes we had to pause a play, let the car go by, and then pick it up from there. So, so everybody would just freeze, and then, and then after the car went by, you was like, okay, go. And then the play would just pick off. So it's amazing the things that we were able to do. But that was home, man. And, and I think about those days because not only was it about always playing ball, but it's also about the community that surrounded us, and me being in a community space now, it's something I can really appreciate, something I can really speak to. But at the time, I didn't know, man. I just thought everybody on my block was related to me, and so we played ball, man, and we did all kind of ball. We played street hockey. I remember my neighbor Larry, also known as Pookie, used to play golf. We would dig a little hole and just play golf right there.
Yeah.
So those are the things we did from sun up to sundown. It was all about sports.
Yeah. We actually went outside to play our sports. We didn't play our sports on TV.
Exactly. Yeah, before the invention of these games now, we didn't know nothing about that.
We know nothing about that. Hey, so let me bring up this right here. Let me put on my reading glasses so I can see this.
Yeah, you see me. I got mine on already.
Yeah, I see you. Yeah, I see you right there in the middle. Is that
right in the middle?
Okay, I have you. Let me read your resume. As far as football, we have Lindblom Tech High School. You got there in 1978, graduated in 82. If I have anything incorrect, please let me know. I have you. You played Fossall your sophomore year. You played varsity in 1980, 81. I have you a tight end, a defensive end. You also punted the ball. I didn't put that on. Matter of fact, you didn't kick off, did you? Just punt?
No, that was just I did kickoffs and punts in my junior year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what's up, Russ Baker?
What's up, Russ Baker? The link.
So hey, we have also, you was part of the 1981 Public League championship team. Also have that you played college football at Triton College. Okay, yes, hey, let's go to this page. I find this interesting. Thanks for sharing this, Mike. See those who see the athletic part of Pastor Neal is still there. That's why you see him riding bikes and lifting weights and everything else. Now, this is the interesting thing about this here. Mike was the player of the week this week, and I want to say this was the first game of the year.
Yeah, it was first game in our senior year.
Okay. Now, okay, so hey, I want to talk about this before we actually get into how you made the football team and all that. Okay, these wasn't easy. Far as I know, one person got this award a week. Out of all his public schools, only Kenny McReynolds them only picked one person, and so it's not like you know, this one like now everybody get a trophy.
Man, that game, I remember, Coach Meddy, rest in peace, and Coach Torian, those guys. It was a tight game against Taft, and and that, like I say, as I look back on it, even though from Chicago, I had never really heard of Taft, and so from what I understand now, Taft is on the far northwest side. Probably an area I had probably never been to as a kid, but we were playing them, and like I said, it was a real tough game. I had only been moved to tight end right before season started, so we were kind of holding them down, but at the same time, we were about to lose. And there was a play, our quarterback Mitch Duncan. I forget what was the exact call, but I remember going out. It was like maybe what they would call a wheel route now, and he kind of floated up there, and then once I caught it, I had one guy to beat, and I was really close to the sideline too. And as Coach Palino said, I put the crazy legs on him. I did a little juke move, and the guy missed me. I think he may have dove, but he missed my legs and missed me, and so I kind of tight roped it to the end zone. And back then, Lindblom, man, was always good for having fan participation. And the student body, it was at Gately Stadium on the turf, and man, the place just went crazy, man. And I didn't really know what was happening other than just keep running. Notre Dame, that was it. That was it. The Notre Dame pass. And when I got in the end zone, like I said, everybody went crazy, but there was still some time left. And I remember switching over to defense. And while everybody was still on the high, we still had some work to do. And I ended up getting a safety on their QB, and I think that's what helped propel me. And I'm so sorry, I got the article somewhere. I was gonna try to send that up, but it mentions the touchdown plus the safety, and that's when I got that call from WBMX.
Okay, so the final score of that game was actually 10-6. So Michael's, man, that's wonderful. He actually was responsible for all the scores in that game because he got the touchdown. We didn't kick field goals, so it was 2-point conversion.
So I can't remember the 2-point conversion. I don't know if that was Sydney. Did we run it in or how we got that? And like I say, I could easily. I'm gonna look up that article now because I'm curious myself. But I remember getting the safety, and then I remember later talking to Coach Meddy and just really honored to him for him kind of just saying what a great game that was, and he had mentioned another game too. We ended up having a goal line stand against King High School, and that was later in the playoffs. And so I remember even after graduating, he said that was probably one of the greatest stands he's ever seen.
Okay. Hey, I want to say what's up to Vic Smith. What's up, Q? Hey, Vic is actually one of my childhood friends. Man, we grew up in the same neighborhoods. At that time I had moved over to one block over to 67 and Normal, and Vic was on 68. Vic played high school football for Simeon. He was on the team with Gerald Best.
Oh man, what's up,
Vic,
man?
Vic was a tight end. Man, Vic, I still hate you, bro. You eliminated us from the scene in the playoff. Nah, that's my brother there. But they did eliminate us. What's up, TC? I see TC on there.
Yeah, TC. What's up, bro? TC. That's my right. brother there.
What was the plaque about that we
so the plaque was actually an all city team that I was awarded to, and it was at a function where some of the team got a chance to go. kind of infamous. It was a funny time being there with my brothers from Lindblom, and just having a great time, man. And so awards like that, you kind of accumulate them and you remember them, but now they mean even more now as we get in this age. And so, man, I just went over there, and that trophy, I still had that trophy
Okay.
in the closet. Yeah. So, it's just great to be able to look back and reminisce over that, but also appreciate the fact that, man, we're still here. You mentioned our brother Gerald Best, and there's some others that we've played ball with or went to school with who are now no longer among us, and so I think it gives you some perspective. And like I said, I'll talk about that later, man. But I'm just glad to be alive and glad to be a servant.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much. Hey, so let's get to you played your sophomore year. Now, who was that Paulino who was the coach at that time?
Yeah, Paulino was the coach, and no, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was the head coach.
Okay, he was the head coach. Okay, so hey, so I know what playing. So I want to say, if I remember correctly, I was a freshman then. You played baseball too, right? You was on the baseball team that year.
Played baseball as a sophomore under Coach Watkins.
Okay,
may he rest in peace, a bruh, and that was awesome as well. And baseball, I played center field.
Okay,
number 22, and man, we had some great moments there. I remember playing with Mitch because Mitch was a pitcher. Dwayne Abercrombie, just so many good guys, man. I just remember playing with, and back then the budget being what it was, we got a ride to the game. We were playing Kennedy High School, and once again, here's this whole, because Chicago is always based on race. No, you can't get around it.
Yeah.
So we went to play a game on like 59th and Narragansett. Once again, never heard of that street, but once you knew, you were in a different area, and we ended up playing them. We beat them pretty good, slaughter ruled them, and then Coach Watkins got in his car and he was like, "Okay, y'all, the bus is down there." So we had to walk 4 blocks to the bus stop, to 63rd Street. And man, it was so funny, man. But yeah.
So you get to I know Fossall, is a little different at varsity. So when you get to the varsity team, that's that team with Tim Johnson, was that Mark is that Mark Miller?
Yeah.
Okay, that's that team with a bunch of them. Swan, man, it was a bunch of y'all, man, on that team. So hey, were you able to crack the starting lineup your junior year?
No, junior year I only was able to kick. And
okay.
I'm not sure how that came about, but and then I look at it, like I said, I was the underclassman. You're on a team that's kind of somewhat dominated by seniors, and it seemed like that used to be the normal way, the pecking order. Yeah. But especially seeing as I guess our whole career, I never was a big guy. Even my senior year, I played defensive end at maybe 185, 190. And that was it. And of course, we look at that now. That's super small then. I used to get on the bus and people thought I was a basketball player.
If I remember that name, Crazy Leg, stuck with you that whole season.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? But so that year, as far as not really getting in the starting lineup, I mean, was that, I know that year that the team didn't win too many games. How did that affect you? Did it motivate you the next year? Because if I understand, you starting in baseball, but you're not starting on the football team. Was there anything, because you said you became a kicker, so it sounded like you were like, man, I just want to play right now. Anything I can, I want to get on the field.
Yeah, so I started in sophomore baseball, but I was cut from varsity baseball.
Okay.
And I guess the one thing that was disappointing with that, of course, in Chicago, you don't really get a chance to get out and play before the team is picked, so you kind of get it in the gymnasium, just fielding grounders or playing catch. But at the same time, I just love playing ball. So I understood my lot. I wasn't overly disappointed. And then, like I say now, all those things we went through or we're going through, they help prepare you now as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Because in life, you're not gonna always get your way. Things are not gonna always go the way you want. So you have to make a determination if you're gonna be a team player.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
that
so
is so true.
yeah.
Right. Are you going to be part of the team? Are you going to help? Or are you going to just like sit there and pout? So I can remember going into your senior year. Now I'm the junior on the team, and I never played for team. I never made the team. I played Park District baseball, got to a World Series, lost it at Ogden Park, tried out for Lindblom baseball, didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we filled some balls in the gym. I was like, man, how they know I can't play, man? I haven't even did anything. I didn't do anything. So my guys in the neighborhood, I go out from the Inglewood community across street from Robeson at this time, and all my partners in the neighborhood, they used to call me Cube, but they like, man, Cube, man, gee, I told you shouldn't have went there, man. You could play baseball and football, man. And you didn't even make the team. And I'm like, man, I hate this school.
Yeah, it has the potential of being like almost like a deal breaker, just to say I'm done, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that, man. I'm thankful I didn't, because I played like on my 8th grade team. I played at Dawes Park
Okay.
on 80th and Damon, and I actually played with future high school classmates, Adam Ahmed.
Okay.
Uh,
Scrawny.
yep, and then Jeff Moody.
Okay.
I actually got that picture. I think I've shown that on Facebook at times, as a throwback picture. And played with some guys that went to Calumet. So played with some guys that was like really balling. And I was on that team. And but I just look at it like it was still ball.
Okay.
And, and so that junior year, even though I was so called only kicking, I was on the team, man. And so I had no regrets. And then later in life, Tim Johnson, big fan. We go on to serve together in ministry
Okay.
at Salem Baptist Church, and
Mm-hmm.
and I've always told people, I said, Tim, pound for pound, is like one of the toughest dudes I know. Not only with football, but just his approach in life and ministry, man. He's dogmatic. Once he gets his teeth on it, he's gonna do it. And so I'm just proud. I used to always tell people, I said, yeah, Tim was the captain of the football team.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Me and Royce was talking about Tim a few years ago, and Royce said, man, all the people I ever met in my life, man, I think Tim may be either the toughest or he's right there in that top number. And we've all, I said, yeah, he is, but definitely is. Hey, let me bring this up, Mike. We're gonna kind of get through the high school a little bit more. Man, I got some articles here,
Uh-oh.
man. So I'm glad you brought up the thing about the trophy of the first game as far as player of the week, because that set the tone that season. It's difference of winning that first game versus losing that first game.
Exactly.
And let me break this a little big on my screen so I can see this. So this is a Robeson game, the one looked like where everybody squared off. This might have been what, Arkansas? I
Uh
think Arkansas Stadium. I can't remember, but this game, if I remember correctly, we actually lost this game 12-0. We didn't score,
yeah.
and yeah, and we the coaches made some tough decisions after this game. A couple of people lost their spots, and a couple of people gained their spot. Look like this next game, we on the road now. We somewhere in the middle of the season, and we playing Kenwood.
Kenwood.
And it looked like it says we beat Kenwood 26-0. And and I see one over here. I mean, they give a shout out to the defensive team. I see them run some of the names over here. I see it's got Barry Kimmons. Hey, what's up, Barry? Mitch Duncan, who played both ways. Plank, Keith Floyd Noy, who about coach from Bears Banner. I see it says Eric Frazier, Scotty, Mike Neal,
Bullock, yeah. and you know, Bernard, I think what I loved about our team, and I'm surprised. I guess they couldn't list everybody, but you know, even Randy Gibson. What I loved about our team, we had a mixture. Of course, Eric Frazier, big guy. You know, he's been swole his whole life. You know,
right.
But then you had guys like myself. You had guys like Randy Gibson. Even Bullock, tough as he was, you know, he was not your prototypical linebacker. But yet, when it came down to it, man, we were able to hang with some of the bigger guys and bring some wood. Yeah. And I remember one game, it was the other team had the audacity to laugh at Randy Gibson.
Yeah.
And I remember them saying something like, look at that little linebacker. Yeah. And man, it didn't seem like it was a play later. Something happened, and Randy came in there, and you know how you hit that good stick that reverberates across the whole stadium. and I think I remember us saying like, "That's your little linebacker right there."
Let me go back a little bit. Did you Did you participate in the producer program with Patalino in the off season?
No. Okay. And was that like going into my senior year?
That was going to your senior year. He had this program called Producers, where it was just a weightlifting program in the off season.
And you know what? I actually did. You know what I did though, and it's funny. I lift a little bit because I know we had got that new weight machine.
Yeah.
But what I did a lot, which kind of amazed me, I ran the back stairs.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a prelude for what I would end up doing later. But I was running the back stairs like the whole period. And it's funny because I never liked running. Because people used to want me to join the track team. And we used to have, we used to joke with those guys like Frank. And I'm like, man, what am I run the track team for? All y'all do is run. You know,
right.
When I was like joking, like when I run, I want to get to the end zone. I'm not just gonna keep running. I'm trying to get to the end zone. But I think running those stairs, it helped me. You know, it didn't bulk me up, but it helped me with my stamina and probably strengthening my legs too. And that helped me be able to fight off some of those bigger offensive tackles I was going up against. So to answer your question, I was part of the producers. I think I just kind of did it my own little way. And I think I'll never forget that because it was very key to get that endurance and get that fitness in while I could.
Okay. Yeah, because producers is actually how personally I tried out for the football team because I wasn't even going to try out. I actually just came to work out weights with Sidney because he was rehabbing from an ankle injury from his sophomore year, which would be going into his junior year. And so he was going to, when he started lifting weights, when Patalino created the producers program, I just went in there with him. So Patalino asked me, was I trying out for the team? I'm like, no. And at this time, Patalino was on the varsity, because he, I don't think when I got there, he was already on the varsity my freshman year. I think it was Stringfellow who was the football coach when I tried out.
Okay.
And so it was from working with the producers program where Patalino kept asking, are you trying out for the football team? Right. Because he kept seeing me in there. He kept seeing me improving on the weights. And so eventually, like, why are you not trying out? I said, because I don't want to not make it again. Right? The frustration of it. Right. But anyway, the motivation of it. But anyway, Mike, let's get back to this here with you and the football team. I mean, we just won a game 26-0. Man, there's games, man, Mike, where I'm looking at you guys, man, and y'all, I'm admiring the way y'all just killing these guys, right? especially like it was multiple teams that would make fun of our size, saying, hey, those are some small guys. And I want to say Kenwood was one of the teams who was laughing at us, saying that they was bigger than us and stuff like that. And they was calling us midgets and all kind of stuff. But and one of the things, Mike, I swear, if you didn't get a touchdown every game, you got one every other game. Do that seem about right?
Well, I can't even remember. I don't remember the stats, man, to be honest with you. But I do know we had a couple plays that were just almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
And so I definitely remember getting some good catches. And when you talk about a team, our defense, man, it was like it reminds me, if I could put it in today's term, it reminds me like a Lovie Smith defense. Where man, we were just hungry, man, for sacks, and like, I'll meet you at the quarterback. We knew that Plank, and first of all, those that don't know, that's where he got his name from Doug Plank, Chicago Bears, baby Plank. And those guys and then Barry, they just got joy out of really hitting people real hard. And yet they were so-called some of the smallest guys on the team. But I think no matter what people thought at the start of the game, I guarantee you at the end of it, they knew they were in a fight.
Yeah. I would agree with you. One of the plays, I would say, we had this quick slant that Mitch would throw to you, man, and that was like money in the bank. I mean,
yeah, and
it was like money in the bank.
And that play was like an audible too. It was a play, but it was also audible, and he would call it out. And once he called it, we knew what to do. And I could just fast forward real quick. The first game of the playoffs against King High School, as Russ mentioned, that helped catapult us to go on to Soldier Field. It was a night game, and I remember the Coach Meddy, telling us how King lined up, and he told Mitch, if you see this, call Green 19. He circled on the board. There's nobody there. And he said, I guarantee you a touchdown. I can't remember if we got the ball first or maybe but it's definitely our first offensive play. Sure enough, we saw it, and Mitch called Green 19, man, and I called a short pass and took it to the house. The place went crazy. And so if I remember correctly, that King game, and I think we won 6-0.
Yeah.
And so that's why he was saying that goal line stand was so key, because that whole game we fought tooth and nail with them. And that Green 19 was so key that we were able to read it. And I always kind of use that as motivation to say, if you're listening to some good coaching, because he said, I guarantee you it's a touchdown. And so as I'm running with the ball, I'm thinking like, man, coach is right.
Hey, I'd like to thank everybody who's watching Chicago High School Football Legends. Tonight, my guest is Pastor Reverend Neal, who's sharing some of his journey as a high school football in the city of Chicago. Hey, Mike, when you just addressed the defense, man, our defense was tenacious. I mean, you know what? I would say what you guys did my junior year helped me as a runner my senior year. Because I know for y'all was just, when y'all running the scout, I was playing against the scout team, it didn't mean anything to y'all. Y'all was just, hey, let's just somebody run the other team plays and we getting the defense tune up. What y'all didn't know was, and y'all probably didn't observe it, anytime they said scout team, I was the first one to jump because I wanted to run y'all over. Because I was determined I was going to get in the starting lineup, and I thought y'all guys was vicious. You, Plank, Bullock, Barry, all y'all, Gibb, Sydney. I just thought y'all was killers out there. And in my mind, I was like, man, if I can run on these guys, I can run on anybody. And I'm playing with the practice squad, right? So it's just a makeshift. I know a lot of guys, they was like, man, I'm not going out there. I'm like, I'm going out there. I'm going out there. And I can remember Bullock used to make me so mad because Bullock would never do what the instructions were. Like, the coach would be like, do this, because they're gonna do this, right? And then Bullock would run straight to the hole of where the play was going, and not what they told him to do. So after he did that a few times, I can remember one play. I'm like, I'm gonna lower my shoulders, and because I got strong from lifting weights in the producer program, and I was like, Bullock like standing straight up because he's bigger than me. I said, I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna run him over. And I remember this play, and I just knocked and floored Bullock, right?
We gotta get him on the line.
yeah. He probably say he'll remember. But you know what? That moved me up the depth chart. Those practices moved me up the depth chart. Because if you remember, as the season went on, I was getting y'all blowing y'all out, but me and Cook and all those was getting time. But for me, it was what I did in those practices, being on the practice squad. And I know I kept saying, man, I know Barry like to leave his feet, man. I never remember Barry tackling me because I used to get as close as I can, and I would wait till he lunch, and I would just
sidestep him. But man, that's powerful because, like I said, if you think about it, in life, until we get that opportunity, you got to continue to show up, and you were willing to do that, and that's what a team does. Whether you're one of the starters or not. So I remember being on the scout team as a junior. Besides kicking, and you got to do that, and because in life you're not going to always have a spotlight on you. You're not going to always be the one that's called upon right away, but by being diligent, and that opened a door for your next season.
Right.
So,
right.
And I'll share with you how that became true even later. Yeah, even later.
Okay, so we get to that. So hey, as you going through that season, you build a momentum. The team lost that game to Robeson. Then there's a questionable call in the Bogan game.
Bogan, we lost to Bogan.
Yeah. We lost to Bogan. Plank has the film on it. It looked like Sidney scored this touchdown. Half his body was across the line, but we go back to at this time, for those who are unfamiliar with Chicago or younger than us, at this time, Bogan was pretty much 80%, 90% white at that time.
If not 100.
Yeah, not 100, right? Unlike people played the 90s, that area had became regenified, and it had demographics had changed. So anyway, we knew in the game like that, we were battling the refs too. And Maddie, our head coach was a white guy, and he lived in that area. And I can remember that if he didn't win any other game that year, he definitely wanted to be.
He wanted that. Yeah, he wanted that. he wanted that.
Yeah, he was telling us. I mean, some of it might have been hype, but he was telling us all kind of stuff that the Bogan coaches were saying about us. And he was like, we got to beat these guys, man. But to our disappointment, we ended up not beating them. But anyway, we moving through the season. Most of those games were not even close after the second quarter. We pretty much were blowouts. I mean, people didn't expect this from Lindblom. We known for academics, not football. You mentioned the King game. We win the King game. We move to the playoff. As we moving through there, is there anybody that you faced during that year that you like, oh man, or I look forward to playing them, or you like, man, that guy really could hit, or you're seeing the press on them that you like, oh man, this is gonna be a tough one?
Yeah, it wasn't so much the press, but once we got there in the semifinals at Soldier Field, we played Tilden. And I want to say Dempsey Norman was their QB, and I think he played some D-back too or something.
He was the receiver.
Yeah, so they had some really tough guys, because I remember we had scrimmaged them as well before the season over at Fuller Park, right on 47th Street. So I remember them being tough from there, but in that game, that was a tough game because we're on Soldier Field. Now we're getting later into the season, so it's colder, and it just seems like every play those guys are bringing it. So they were like our version of ourselves. You look at them, and they didn't really appear to be that big, but every play, man, it was just cracking heads, man. So that was a tough game. When we finally got off of that one, I can't remember the score. I'm not even sure did we go to overtime that game or what, but when we beat them to go to the championship, man, that was a huge relief.
Yeah. So in that game, from my memory, I had Sydney on as our first guest, and ironically, he ended up being the player of the week in that game. Like, he was the player of the week that first game. So we did go to overtime in that game. I want to say that game might have been 12-6 or something like that. But anyway, Plank, I want to say, recovered a fumble or something in that overtime, and that's how the game ended, with him picking up the fumble and laying on the fumble.
Wow.
And Sydney scored twice. I think he scored in regulation, and then he scored in the overtime. But they was a pretty tough team. Hold on, Jamie Barton. I thought that was his name. Hey, thanks, Russ. The quarterback was Jamie Barton.
Look at me, 18 and 12.
10 to 12. Okay, 18
no, 18 to 12 in overtime.
Okay.
Thanks, Link.
Yep. So I'm trying to get Dempson on this show. So we've been in communication. I probably got to get that camera shy, get over that part with him. But Dempson and his guys, that kind of bugged them that they lost that game to us, right? And he was like, man, we need to get together, us. And, he wanted to get together with our team and his team. So I was like, hey, one day we try to make this happen. That seemed, that'd be cool. A nice discussion.
Yeah, but that would be cool.
Now we're in a championship game. And it says Robertson Rumps Lindblom. Let me read this. I put my glasses on.
Oh, no, don't read
it. Hey, now, you know what? Let me point something out, Mike, and I didn't know until today. You scored our first touchdown that year, which you told me today. Do you know you scored our last touchdown?
Yeah.
Isn't that something? Because we only had 8 points, and you the person that scored that 8 points. So we started our season with the only score came from you, and we ended our season with the only points we scored came from you. Interesting.
Man, that gives me no consolation. No, but the only thing I can say, man, it was just an honor to play at Soldier Field. Of course, Walter Payton was still alive then, and that's when the Bears had AstroTurf. So even against Tilden, you spend your first, you're out there warming up, and your first few minutes, you're just kind of in awe. You're running around like that field, that turf, like wow, like this wasn't like Gately Stadium turf. This is like a pro stadium.
Yeah.
And so after you got past that, then you had to play the game. But it's just something I'm proud of to say I've had that experience, and win or lose, at least I say I had that experience, and and I know something I've done ever since, as an adult. I always tell young people, if you can, just play some sport.
Yeah.
Participate or do something, even if it's the chess team or whatever. But make sure you participate in something before you graduate.
What Vic said, wasn't Jeffrey Head the quarterback for Robeson then, and Mike Jones at receiver? No, I think at that point, that it was
Patrick Wilburn, wasn't it?
It was. You know what? That's what was strange. Pat Wilburn was a receiver, and I forget the guy's name right now. He was their quarterback, but whatever happened, Pat Wilburn started at quarterback. Tim Spencer.
Yeah.
Tim Spencer was the actually starting quarterback. Something happened. I don't know what it was, but Pat Wilburn ended up starting at quarterback in that game. Pat was a receiver, number 10. That was the team with Touche, Mickey Pruitt, who's now over Chicago Public Schools as far as sports. He's over the Chicago Public Schools sports. So he's in Illinois. I think it may be Illinois. And he's been selected to the Hall of Fame. They were on that team. That was, I believe, Fabry Collins, and some of those guys were on that team. Yeah, Russ said it was Tim Spencer. Yep, it was Tim Spencer. I think Tim used to play street ball or grammar school ball with T.C. Cook.
Yeah, and you know, actually, TC and I grew up in the same neighborhood. But you know, I moved, and so later I heard about some of those same guys that if I had still been over on 67 and Wabash, I would have known them even more. Because Mike Jones, his nickname was Purdue.
Yes.
Because they said that's where he wanted to go, and he talked about Purdue all his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, he said Duro Fulgo.
Yeah,
yeah. Hey, what's up, Andre? Andre was one of Andre might have been my third guest on the show. Andre Kellum, who was a running back. Now, Mike, that game, man, I don't know about you. I mentioned in the other podcast, I thought I was the only one dreaming about this game. And it's funny because Sydney and all us went to school together, but I guess I never mentioned it to him. And one day I see Andre Bullock in Evergreen Plaza in the 1990s. And we get to talking. And since I was in his immediate circle, I said, Andre, let me ask you this, bull. He was like, what? I said, man, do you ever have dreams about that game? He was like, all the time. So have you ever had dreams about that game? Because I was laughing with Rocky Harvey, how in my dreams, I wish I could change the outcome, but we always lose in that game.
Yeah, man. I think what I remember about it was, once again, you know, stadium packed, it's cold, but it just seems like we had a series of fumbles as far as some punt blocks. Yeah. I don't know if they blocked two of them or three, but just back to back to back. And so the snowball has started rolling against us. And we already knew that Roberson's going to be tough. And in order to even play them as tough as we did before and lose 12-0. So we knew we had to play like a perfect game, but that momentum, it just seemed like everything just fell apart for us, you know. And I remember all the former players were lined up, you know, at our tunnel. And as we were coming off the field, they were still cheering us on, man. So I'll never forget that, man. And but yeah, long story short, it would have been nice to have won, or and you know, and then you think about like, man, can we have put up a better fight, you know? But such is life, man, and that's why I tell people at every point you're gonna get a lesson. It may not be the one you want, but there is a lesson.
Yeah. So Mike, you know what? One of the lessons I learned from that game, and I'm gonna put it the perception I had, right? Everybody might not have that same perception, even though we're experiencing the same thing. Now, for me, I was real excited because when you go back to the Tilden game, personally, that was my first start that season. I finally worked my way to the starting lineup, and I'm the starter, right, in the Tilden game. Now, I don't get any carries, but I don't care. I'm playing, right? I'm blocking. So when you see some of the pictures, I got them from Mitch with us in the Robeson game, is me, Jerome, and Sydney in the backfield. And Wash was coming in place of Jerome, but I'm the other back. But anything, the thing that I saw that I thought, and it's a lesson in it, Coach Meddy was happy to be there. And he was so happy to finally be there. I think he didn't really concentrate on finishing the job. And that's one of the things in life, you know, you have to be prepared for those moments, because we won that game in double overtime. Monday, I want to say we just had a walkthrough. That was Thanksgiving week. I get home, Robeson is practicing. I'm like, oh, wow. Tuesday, we start doing a little something. We practicing everything. I go to Robeson, you know, because I live right across the street from Robeson. They practicing. Now I'm watching them. I got my equipment. They had that saying, kill the combat kid. I was telling Sydney about it. Kill the combat kid. I'm like, who they talking about? So somebody points out, they see me. Hey, Touche, one of them, because they knew me. Hey, he played for Lindblom. You see his equipment? So they coming over there, Coach Manny. I'm like, hey, were you over spying on us? Oh, no, Coach. I actually live right there. I live kind of corner from it. And he was like, oh, okay, because we thought you were spying on. It's illegal to spy, whatever. And he was like, And I asked some of the players, like, to share somebody, I said, man, what's a comeback kid? They was like, your boy, man, your boy. I'm like, I have no idea what y'all talking about. He said, man, Sydney. Because when we beat y'all 12-0, he was a buster. But at the point, you remember, Sydney now became one of the top guys. Him and Carboy, I believe Mark Dean, and one of my next guests, James Marlborough, who played for Schurz. He's going to be one of my next guests coming up. They was like the main guys that year that was really toting that rock. But, you know, Carboy was kind of the standard, and everybody was kind of chasing him. But anyway, the lesson was, I thought we approached that game like we happy to be there. And the situation I saw with the punter was our punter actually got on academic probation, and he was kicked off. He couldn't play that week because of his grades. And they asked, who could punt? And one of our teammates that wanted to play said he could punt. And he had a punt block. He shanked the punt. And like we would do at the beginning of the game, we started games a lot with an onside kick. So they had a short field on the first possession. Then we shanked the punt, gave them a short field. Then we had one block after that. And before we knew it, we was down, about 24-0 with 3 possessions. So that game was
it was an avalanche. It was truly it was definitely avalanche.
So hey, let's move on to we have here to our brother right here, Reverend Neal, the pastor of Glorious Life Church. What's the address? Oh, it's down right here,
4351 South Drexel.
Okay. So Mike, one thing I want to bring up before we get into some of the ministry stuff, it's the stuff that you do at your church that caught my eye. One of the things was leading with literacy. Can you tell us a little bit about this program?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm very thankful, man, to have been able to serve our community over the years, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying, that sometimes you're so-called on the bench and maybe not known, but you still putting your grind in. You're still part of the team. So I served at Salem Baptist Church for 13 years, and I kept hearing the call of launching our own ministry here in Bronzeville. And so the Leading with Literacy was a result of that, because I went to one of the principals in the area and just asked, could I read to little kids? Because I figured, hey, what better way to connect with the community? And so I didn't know anything about the things that I know now as it relates to education and the lack of male teachers and Black teachers. And man, once I started to learn, I was like, wow, this is something else. So that's been our thing. We changed our name from Real Men Read to Leading with Literacy, because we had started to really expand and do other things in literacy. We give away books. To date, probably well over 50,000 books. You know, every year we just give away books. We go and read to kids. We advocate for literacy. We work with principals and teachers. And so, yeah, that's my happy space right there, man. And, you know, over the years, I've done that. And some of the kids that I've read to are now like teenagers. And, you know, they would see me on the street and remember me reading to them when they were in kindergarten.
Man, that's awesome, brother. You know, for some of them children, I'm sure some of them might tell you as they became older that you might have been, other than the teacher, the only male or Black male that ever read a book to them. Because I'm thinking, as you listen to you talk, and you know, I came in a single family household raised by a mother. There was no male figure reading a book to me, you know, and coming through grammar school until I got to 5th grade, absolutely every one of my teachers were women teachers. I didn't have a male teacher, and I guess that's the funny part is I remember him, Mr. Underwood, who was my teacher, and ironically, his son ended up being one of my high school classmates, and we graduated together. and Mr. Underwood and his son's Troy Underwood. You may know Troy Underwood.
Troy Underwood?
Yes.
Yeah, the pastor.
Yes, the pastor.
Small world, man.
Small
yeah.
world. His father was my grammar school teacher in 5th grade, and he was actually my only male teacher until I got to Lindblom. And Mr. Underwood played a key role, but I'm thinking about reading to you. He was our music teacher as well. But anyway, when I was graduating from Lindblom, Mr. Underwood was there because of his son. So he was like, "Oh, Bernard, I didn't know you went to school with him." And he played a important role in my life, even though it was from a distance. He said, "Hey, I want to make sure you do good in college." And he asked about a couple of my friends from grammar school. And he said, "Look, I need you to call me once a year at a minimum and let me know how you're doing in college."
Wow.
Right. And I hadn't seen him really since 5th or 6th grade. So I said, "Okay, Mr. Underwood, I'll call you." And you know what? Sometimes you just say stuff like that, right? I'm talking about young adult, like, yeah, I do. And after I thought about it, I said, "You know what? I'm gonna call him." And I can remember calling Mr. Underwood every year. "Mr. Underwood, this is my GPA." And he was like, "Okay, that's good. That's good. You know what, man? Tell your mother I said hi." Then he started saying, "Hey, you can't be tough on the kids like you do." We was kind of, because he used to always tell us, like, "Hey, if you act up, I'll slap you. And if your mama come up here, I'll slap her too." Right? He said, "But you know, one time he said, when they got years went by, he said, some of the mamas came up and said, 'You gonna slap me, huh?'" He was like, "My mamas understood what I meant."
It's a different era now.
Right. So, hey, anyway, let's move to this. I don't want to take too much of your time. Hold on, bring this up on the screen. Okay, so most stuff you got going on in the ministry. What's going on here, Reverend Mike?
Okay, well, on the right side, that's me cycling with a few friends. Man, I love cycling, and each year my cycling love and game would increase. And so now I ride with a crew like 5 in the morning. We start out and we average about 30 miles a day if we take a typical run. And so as we were riding one time, me and another guy, I saw this family that was riding, and I'm assuming riding on their way to school. So one day, I noticed the kids didn't have helmets on, and I'm a big proponent of safety. So I actually chased the lady down, called her to the side, just said, "Hey, would you mind if I buy your kids some helmets? Because I love to see them ride safely." And she said, "Sure." So, I got her information, went, got the helmets. Another partner, he went, got a helmet, and it was on. Next thing you know, I delivered the helmets. And, I felt good knowing that they were going to be safe. So since that time, I would always see people and say, "Can I get you a helmet?" And then a friend of mine, Darius Lawrence, he had a birthday party, and all his gifts that he had got for his birthday, he gave it to me. And through our non-for-profit, the Timothy Community Corporation, we created this program called Heads Up for Helmets. And we would go out and buy helmets tax-free. And each year we've been giving more and more helmets out. So this past year, we probably gave away close to 80 helmets. And it's gotten to the point now that in addition to the ones we buy, different bicycle shops are donating helmets to us.
Okay.
And so that picture showed me at a school and just trying on a helmet with a kid. And what I'll do then is many people have not heard of Major Taylor. And so even some adults, and Major Taylor was a famous African American cyclist in the 1800s. So even fighting through racism, he still was a world champion, and at one point was known as the fastest man alive. So I would read the book, and then I would have them write an essay. And anybody that writes the essay, I would tell the teacher I'll come back and get them a helmet.
Okay, man, that is beautiful. I mean, this brother, he's just not was a former football player. He's just not a pastor. He's just not a community servant. I mean, he care about his community. He care about children. He cares about safety. He cares about health. I mean, I know even our classmate Sugar Bear, you know, the men that run the streets, right? It's a lot of things like different one. Hey, what is your bike called? Black Beauty? Is that what it is? I'm trying to remember.
Well, I had one called Black Thunder, but then
Black Thunder. Okay.
I got another bike now. So I call myself Black Panther. And
okay.
What's up, brother guy? And man, we do at the Timothy Community Corporation, we do health, literacy, and leadership, and especially that health part, man, because like I say, as we age, we realize that some of our people that have left us didn't necessarily have to. And so why don't we do things that will help prolong and give us a better quality of life? And I know time may be getting live, so I want to share this one thing that I'm doing now. Because I sit on a few other boards, the Laurie Cancer Center, the advisory board. I'm working on the Bronzeville Mental Health Commission, and I'm serving with DEI. But also, I've been really honored to be a character coach at DePaul's men's basketball. And so last year was my first year, and man, that's when I know I came face to face with the fact that you are getting older. And as I'm watching these young guys, man, and they're doing it, man. They're, of course, dunking and running. So one day I tried to run some suicides with them on the court. Man, it was not pretty. That's when I realized I had already been told that I was having arthritis in my hips. And so that's when I knew for sure you got to do something about this. So long story short, this year I've had 2 hip replacements. One in June and the other one in September. That one picture you showed me with my Omega tie on and everything, that was 13 days after my second hip surgery.
Okay.
And so what I've been doing now is just encouraging people. I've met a hip specialist and making connections to the point where we want to bring some of this community health and resources out to people who may be suffering like me. Maybe there's some people limping and they're worried about surgery or they don't think they can afford it, whatever the case may be. But we have to get people informed so they can make the proper decision. So I've told people, like, if you are in bad shape or you need it, go ahead and do it. It's not the end of the world. I feel 100% better. I'll probably never play basketball again, but I'm not in pain like I was before.
Okay. You mentioned DePaul. I'm gonna wrap up, real quick. But didn't they just bring Mark Aguirre back into the DePaul program in some form or fashion recently? Director, or assistant director, or something?
He is a special assistant to the AD.
Okay.
And even before that, Mark would just volunteer a lot of his time on the court, coaching these guys. And actually, this is how I laid it off, because I guess it was a semi-interview with the coach. And I laid it off and just said, hey, I remember DePaul owned this city. And Mark Aguirre was the GOAT.
Yeah.
He is the DePaul GOAT. And I told him all about the history of DePaul. I told him about the city. And, I tell some of these young guys, I said, I know you weren't even alive back then. But this man personally had DePaul on his back to the point where they built the Rosemont Horizon. You remember that?
Yeah.
I said DePaul's games were so huge that you had to go way out there just to get a seat because they would be packed. So it's just a pleasure being around him on a regular basis. And the guy is definitely a down-to-earth guy, very friendly. And, he loves just coaching and sharing. So, yeah.
Okay. Hey, so if you want to get into touch with Reverend Neal, his website is timothycommunity.org. And also, hold on and bring this other one back up. If you want to get the word, you could go visit Glorious Light Church. 4351 South Drexel Boulevard. They both in the same location, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're repurposing a school that was closed 11 years ago. So we've turned it into a community center, and like I said, we do fitness and health. We do literacy, free books anytime, and then we also do leadership.
Okay, so if you would like to be a guest on Chicago High School Football Legend, put the information on there. You can actually email us at bassbanner1@gmail.com. Hey, when I say Chicago High School Football Legends, I'm not saying you had to be the best person on the team. I ain't saying you had to be all city, all state, running all over trucks and everything. I'm saying come share your story. We just record all these stories, and it's a way for us, especially as Black men, to pull these stories into one central location. Because just like when me and Reverend Neal was talking, we might have had articles. If we didn't keep those articles, that's it. It's gone. We don't have the stats like they have now. We didn't have the film. I mean, if you look at film from that time, I mean, it was 16 millimeter film, and it had no sound, right? It had no sound. So even when you found some of that film, somebody might have just put music over the background so it won't be a silent film. And it was only filmed from one direction, and that was it, right? And so sometimes they would lose you on the screen.
But man, let me just say this, man. I want to applaud you for doing this, man, because this is huge. Our community is an oral history, and sometimes I see it. My daughters end up going to Kenwood, and of course, Karen Calloway is from Lindblom, the principal now. So I'm a big fan over there at Kenwood. But I see some of the older guys, or when we're around talking, everybody's talking about their school or what they used to do, how they used to play. So these moments like this is awesome, man, just to get out and talk about it. And you're right. I think we're due for a good old reunion, man. If we don't do nothing else, just sit around and eat. And if we got to embellish a little bit, that's cool too. But it'd be good just for everybody to hang out. But I really appreciate you, Bernard, for doing this, man. That's a good broad. This is great work, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming on and giving us an hour of your time, and all those who actually tune in to the program tonight. And please share this with not only the people in our age group, but share it with the younger people for them to know a history, because there's so many of our young people who kind of feel like the world just started when they were born, right? Because there's no congruency in history. And they kind of just think, hey, they hear something from us. It sounds like it was ages ago. And some of the stuff we may say, they don't believe it, but stuff was built on the foundation of the people before them. And even with Lindblom High School, the ironic thing is, Reverend, Lindblom has not been back to a championship since 1981. So the team that you and I was a part of is actually the last time Lindblom actually been to a city championship game. They've been in close, but they have never made it. They've been in the state and lost, but they have never been to a city championship game. So we have the honor that we hope someday that somebody actually passed that record. I mean, I was ready to win it.
Exactly.
All right. Hey, thank everybody for tuning in, and have a nice evening. Peace.
All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.